Yo, welcome to TDY. For those that don't know me, my name is Winston, but you could call me Winnie. I just wanted to let you know on this fine, beautiful Sunday afternoon that you, yes you, cannot guard me. Hallelujah. Alright, but on a more serious note, I recently got a chance to visit one of my elder brothers, Josh, in Charlotte, North Carolina. He put me onto a lot of game about the pros and cons of buying a crib versus renting. My house right now, he recently just bought a house. He's doing great in it. Really proud of him. I was also talking to another one of my good friends, Lamar, about the strategies behind people actually purchasing these homes. We learned a lot by going back and forth. So I wanted to bring you guys the information that I learned today and hopefully help you guys to grow from it and use it. So today we'll be talking about how to get the bank to pay for your home renovation. So let me give you some context on that. I'm not talking about putting a pool in your backyard or a movie theater in your basement. We're going to talk about how we can leverage credit, or OPM, other people's money, to see how we can drastically increase our returns. I'm talking about potentially turning a single family home into a duplex or a triplex. We're gonna see how we could take a trash house and use the bank's money to rehab it, to either flip it or even live in it. So when I say home renovations, I'm talking about real estate investing mindset version of home renovations. Y'all get the vibe here? So if you're interested in that, stick around. So how did people do this like before any of these ways that I'm about to tell you? Well, first, you bought the house, right? And that usually required the traditional down payment. And then you lived in it a little bit unless you had extra money on the side, or you would take personal loans from different banks at different interest rates for different amounts, right? To cover all these home improvement projects. Managing these different loans at different rates, at different prices, like this stuff can get kind of confusing. It definitely does not pass the vibe check, on top of the fact that you have a whole house and life to manage, right? So that's why these methods really help you bundle things together, save you time, save you money, save you energy, and it's really efficient. I'm so surprised that they even allow you to do some of this stuff. So it's really interesting stuff that I'm hoping somebody capitalizes on. All right, now that I got y'all juices flowing a little bit, let's go ahead and talk about these. So there's 3 ways this is usually done. I'm gonna present all 3 to you, and I want you to use them and internalize them, but overall, pick which one matches your investment strategy, matches your risk tolerance, and your financial situation. Because remember, personal finance is first and foremost personal. So the first is called a Fannie Mae Homestyle loan. So this type of loan allows you to take up to 75% of the home's as completed value as a loan. So if the home is worth $50,000 and you want to buy it for $50,000, right? But after renovations, it'll be worth $100,000 or $150,000. Let's do $100,000 just for math's sake, right? So the home is worth $50,000, but after renovations, it'll be worth $100,000. Well, then you're able to take up to 75% of that completed value as part of the loan. So you're able to borrow up to $75,000 for the renovation, but you could still borrow for the home. So you're actually able to borrow a total of the $50,000 plus the $75,000. So in total, you're actually able to borrow $125,000. Where it gets pretty cool is, let's say that the home is worth $50,000 right now, and after renovations, right, it's worth $125,000, but you only take out a $100,000 loan in total. So you took out 50 for the home and then 50 to reno it. So you have $100,000 in loans right now, but the home is actually worth $125,000. Well, you're in pretty good shape, because what you have now is called equity. And what equity is, it's just the difference between what you owe on your home and what your home is actually worth. So if you owe $100,000, but your home is worth $125,000, well, now you have $25,000 worth of equity on your home. And pay close attention to that, because that comes into play a little bit later in this video, and it can help you save a lot of time, energy, and money. All right, so Fannie Mae Homestyle loans are great loans, but they do come with a couple restrictions. So the first restriction, and I don't know why, it's just been like this for forever now, like you gotta like this video first. Don't ask me why, but they make you like this video and potentially comment and then share it with your friends before they give you the loan. But I don't know, take it up with them, that's not me. Second thing, you actually have to get a certified contractor. So it can't be your cousin Pookie, it can't be Uncle JJ from the block, like it has to be, you know, a certified contractor. However, if you have a cousin named Pookie and he is a certified contractor, then use him. If you have a friend that's a certified contractor, then use them as well, right? Like group economics, everybody eats if one person eats. Also, the money does not go straight to you, so you can't go buy a PS5 with it, right? So like the money goes into an escrow account, and that escrow account still can be used to buy 80-inch plasma screen TV. It can only be used for permanent fixtures in a home. So things like refrigerators, things like water heaters, things like stoves, right? That's the type of stuff that you can spend the money on. Things like moving around bathrooms or deep cosmetic changes in a home. Fannie Mae Homestyle loans are provided by literally any Fannie Mae approved lender, and that's just a quick Google search away. There are some credit score requirements. Usually they don't lend below 620, but I would recommend even waiting till your credit score is at like a 700 to 750 because you'll get the best rates. But honestly, the Federal Reserve slashed rates because of the pandemic. So even now, if you're within that range, I still think that you'll get pretty decent rates. But ideally, you would want to go in with about 10 to 20% of the total amount of the loan that you're taking. So if you're taking a $100,000 loan, you might want to go in with either $10,000 to $20,000, but you can go in with as little bit as 5%. So as little as 5%, if you think about it, on a $100,000 home, $5,000, that's crazy, right? To begin generating some profit. I don't recommend that because the higher you put down to start initially, the quicker you'll be able to build equity, right? The difference between what your home is worth and what you have to pay or what you still owe, and the quicker you'll be able to make money. Keep in mind, it ain't no get rich quick schemes over here, right? Like we're about building sustainable wealth, and sustainable wealth usually takes time to build. All this being said, you could definitely use a Fannie Mae Homestyle loan to get your entire project, your entire flipping flop or whatever y'all call it, like your entire project paid for with one monthly payment. And depending on your credit score, your down payment that you put, this can be a very low payment that can be generating you income either as a short-term rental in an Airbnb or something that you live in and call home for the next 15 to 30 years. How can you beat that? The second is an FHA 203k loan. So FHA 203k loan. A 203k loan is very similar to a Fannie Mae Homestyle loan in the same sense that the money is still in an escrow account, it doesn't go to your bank account, and you still have to use a certified contractor to get all this stuff done. But there are two key differences. So one of the first key differences is that there's actually two types of 203k loans. There's a limited version and then there's a standard version. So the limited version is capped at around $35,000. And that's really used for like cosmetic changes, right? Like redoing my kitchen, like a kitchen remodel or remodeling my bathroom, right? So like excessive projects that require more than $35K, you're not gonna be able to use this type of loan for. So like, boo, I know, right? Like we're not even gonna discuss this type of loan for real. The one that we're gonna talk about is the standard, because that's the extensive one, right? That's the one where if you wanna do a full remodel or even like move studs or change around the room layout or add an extension to the house, that's the one that we're gonna have to use. And there are limits to it, but the limits vary by city, state. So I'll put a link in the description, and I'll also probably show one like right now while I'm talking. I'll probably be showing one of like Philadelphia, for example, and some of like the local limits for this type of loan in Philadelphia. Something about the standard 203K loan though is that they actually require you to have another person there. I believe they're called 203K consultants. So a 203K consultant is essentially just like a professional that oversees the entire project, right? A lot of them are really just like real estate inspectors or like that are doing this on the side, right? They're either retired or this is like their side hustle type thing that they do. And they literally act as like mini project managers for the entire operation, which is really, really cool because average cost for them is usually like $500 to $1,000. And at the end of the day, that's not a lot for having somebody like in your right-hand side trying to help you do this and managing the project. So they're necessary on both ends, like they're literally necessary, but I also think that they're invaluable in their contribution as well. So a 203k consultant, they would be the ones like doing the write-ups, the walkthroughs, right? Like the budget analysis. They'd be the ones like contacting and initiating, like facilitating between the contractors and the banks. They're literally like the middleman. So I really believe that if you're looking into starting a process like this, using a 203k loan, picking a solid consultant is going to be one of the first places that you start. And I recommend doing your research, vetting them, and making sure that you actually have the right person in your corner to support you through this process. So how do you even secure a FHA 203k loan? Well, you need about 3.5% down. That's the minimum requirement. You need 3.5% down and about 620 to 650 as a credit score. I recommend going 10 to 20% down and above like 750 or 700 to 750 for the best rates. However, at the time of making this, 2020, the Federal Reserve has slashed rates ridiculously. So don't really worry about the rates right now. But if you can get in right now, the rates are pretty good. Still, I recommend putting a little bit more than 3.5% down. However, that's really all that they require. Also, a caveat for the FHA loans is you have to live in the property for 12 months. So you can't just flip it and dip. You have to physically stay in the property for 12 months. But that's a caveat, because think about it. If you're able to take a single family home and you're able to create a duplex out of it, you can literally live in one side and still have another rental unit in the backyard or at the side, or another Airbnb at the side, or a studio or whatever, making you cash flow while you're living in the property. And then when 12 months is up, your obligation is up, you can dip, rent both of those out, and then go do something else with your time. So lastly, we have a home equity loan or a cash out refinancing. So home equity loans are pretty interesting. So remember earlier when we spoke about equity, right? The difference between what you owe and what your home is worth currently. Well, that plays a huge part in a home equity loan, because you're actually able to borrow the entire equity that you've built up in your home. So let's say that you bought your home for $200,000, right? And over 5 years of living in your home, you've paid off $50,000. So now you only owe $150,000 of your home, but your home has grown in value, right? Because maybe they're developing in the area, or I don't know, more white people moved in, I don't know, right? But like now your home is worth $250,000 rather than $200,000, and you've paid $50,000. So now you have $100K of equity. You're actually able to borrow $100K of equity from your home, essentially. These can get a little bit tricky, because even though you have access to all that money, right, $100,000, you have to realize that that money isn't just coming from thin air. It's coming from your home, and you usually have to use your home as collateral. So if you're not able to pay back this loan, this type of loan, you can lose your home pretty quickly, and that could be a scary thing for some people. But for other people, that can be the boost that they need, using this type of equity to potentially go finance other properties that are also generating you a cash flow. So you really have to be careful when you do your checks and balances on it, but it's something that could definitely help you. So usually with a home equity loan, you need about 20% of equity. You need to have built up about 20% of equity. Another cool thing is you get this bread like in hand. It's not in an escrow account, right? It could go directly to your bank account. Also keep in mind that a big con for this is you end up extending the amount of time that it takes to pay off your home, because you're taking an additional loan on it. But at the end of the day, it can be useful, because just because you extend the time that you pay off your loan by another 5 years, 10 years, but you're generating massive amounts of money on the side by using that money and creating an Airbnb property or another business or something like that, you have to weigh it out, because it can be very beneficial. So those are the 3 types of loans that you can use to really expedite your home buying process and get the bank to pay for these remodels, for these real estate transformations that you can do to generate immediate cash flow or generate long-term wealth over time. You can use a Fannie Mae Homestyle loan, you can use an FHA 203k loan, even a limited or a standard, and you can use a home equity loan. So before I end the video, I did want to go through like a sample timeline and illustration on how I've seen this work and how it could potentially work for you guys if you were to capitalize on some of these loan options. So it depends where you look first, right? Location, location, location is the mantra for real estate. I know personally in areas like Philadelphia and Baltimore, you can get homes from $40 to $70 to upwards of $100,000, right? $40 to $100,000. And these homes aren't going to be like pristine, right? Because it's $40,000, but they're going to have great bones, great structures, and are going to be in up and coming areas. So let's say we use like an FHA 203k loan, right, which means that you have to live there for a year, and we purchase a home for $90,000. But we're going to take $110,000 on top of that, right? So a total $200,000 loan to renovate this home. So right now, the homes that we can see there, we can get some like 2-bedroom, 1-bath homes, 3-bedroom, 1-bath homes, but we're gonna use that $110,000 and we're going to make it 2 units. We're going to make a 2-bedroom, 1-bath on one side, and maybe like a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, or another 2-bedroom, 1-bath on the other side. So now we've taken $90,000, used $110,000 to flip the home. So now we owe $200,000 on this home, but that renovation has now brought the value of the home from $90,000 to $150,000. Right, so bear with me. So we owe $200,000 on this home, right? But now we have 2 units. We have 2-bedroom, 1-bath. We live in one because we have to stay there for at least 12 months, and then we use the other one for Airbnb, what we rent it out to, whatever, we have a studio, etc., whatever, right? So a $200,000 loan, if we put around $10,000 down, right? So like, let's say we put $10,000 down on this $200,000 loan and we get it at a decent interest rate, we can be looking at paying anywhere from like $1,400 to $1,600 a month. Think about that. For the home that you'd be living in, you'd be paying about $1,400 to $1,600 a month. Now we rent that out. That's 1 unit. Remember, the entire thing costs us $1,400, but we can rent out 1 unit for about that same amount. Essentially, we'd be living for free. We'd be living for free for that entire year. So now what would a smart person do? A smart person would be, instead of taking their bread and going to buy stupid stuff, they would save their money, right, their rent that they should be paying, but that other property is paying it for them. They would save it or either pay it to further increase the equity of the home. So let's say that you do that for the next 2 to 3 years. You further increase your equity, you're paying it down, right? You're constantly paying it, and you're smart because you can afford the entire rent of the property regardless of if you have somebody in that other unit or not. That's another thing to keep in mind. Make sure you can afford the rent of the entire property at all times. So that's cool. You can afford it, but you don't have to because you have somebody living there. 3 years later, you've paid down a significant chunk of the home because you've had help, right? People are living in your other unit and you're also paying it. And you're paying down, you're joining to pay $1,400 a month. So you've paid down, you have equity. Now you can take a home equity loan, use that home equity loan, go purchase another unit. Now that other unit making you money as well, you're doing the same thing, living comfortably, right? Because you're not paying rent in your first unit. That other unit is generating you money that you're using to pay that rent. 5 years later, you go take another home equity loan. So now you're generating wealth, you're generating money from both sides, constant cash flow. And now maybe you're ready to go look for your dream home, right? You've had enough saved up and you're ready to capitalize on all of this stuff. So fast forward 5 years into the future. It's been about 8 years since you've purchased your first home using an FHA 203k loan. And 8 years later, you have about 3 to 5 different properties, all generating you cash flow, all making you an excess amount of money every month on top of your day job. If you're still working, right, you probably won't have to by now. Probably just be about managing your properties, and you continue living like that, continue building that. In the next 5 to 10 years, you'll have all those homes paid off, and now you're not paying rent anymore, and all that money can go to you. On top of that, all the expenses that you use to set some of this stuff up, to keep track of your business, can be written off on your taxes as well. And you get an additional tax credit for being a homeowner. So I know I probably just glamorized that completely, but honestly, just know that this process has its ups and downs either way. You're gonna run into things that are gonna throw you backwards, but if you do things correctly and if you do things right, you will be able to generate large amounts of income using these types of loans, leveraging credit to drastically increase your returns. So there you go. I definitely just passed on to y'all like 8 hours worth of research and conversation, and hopefully a clear, concise 20-minute video. Please don't disrespect me. Like the video, comment, and do all that YouTube stuff, honestly. And also, I'm really challenging y'all, like, take this information and act on it. It's a risk. In some ways, it's a huge benefit. In other ways, please do your research on it and choose appropriately which one works best for your risk tolerance, your financial strategy, and your investment plan. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like the video, make sure you comment, do all that YouTube stuff, and most importantly, make sure you keep growing each and every single day. I love y'all. Peace.